When I started streaming, there was nobody watching. I had no gamer friends. And you might be at this point right now. You've been streaming a couple times, or even a month, or 2 months, or 3 months, and there's just nobody coming. You just sit there and you ask yourself, should I still talk because there's nobody listening? Over the years, I've grown my stream, so I'm not really at a point anymore that there's nobody listening anymore, that there's nobody watching and I'm talking to myself. But sometimes, even sometimes, there's nobody talking. There are people viewing, but I'm not sure if they're there because they're just lurking, or they're not saying anything at least. And I had a couple of times that Twitch chat had been broken, and I was talking to myself, because I thought there was nobody there. But actually my Twitch chat was broken and I thought nobody was typing, but people were typing all the time and I just didn't see it because my Twitch chat was broken and I thought nobody was typing. And then I couldn't see the messages. But even though it's going a little better with my stream now and I do have people in my chat talking, I still remember those days when I was streaming and nobody was there. Those times was super difficult. And I was just wondering why I was doing it. I really wanted to make something to entertain somebody. But how could I entertain somebody if nobody was there to entertain? You might be at this point because you are watching this video right now, but I'm gonna give you some tips on how to talk to yourself when nobody is watching. Or at least when you think nobody is watching, because sometimes there's people watching even if you think there's nobody watching. This video is part of a series on how to become a successful Twitch streamer. This is How to Become a Successful Streamer, where I help you reach your full potential. Enjoy the ride! This series doesn't have any sponsors, meaning that I don't make any money from this except for the ad revenue. So if you like the series on how to become a successful Twitch streamer, help me with buying some merch. Stream smarter, not harder merch. Yeah, I don't iron. I know, I don't iron. Got a couple of things, but shirts are really cool. You can buy them on Trui.tv. Yeah, that's the website, Trui.tv. Or you can jump into my streams on Twitch.tv/Trui. Totally landed in the bin. First tip I have for you is turn off your viewer count. I don't know why I'm so goofy in these videos, but I am. I'm a little bit of a goofy ball? I don't know if that's a word. Goofy ball. Turn off your viewer count. Because if you do not see that 0 the whole time, this means that you are not super focused on that there's nobody there. Twitch can be a little bit late on updating the view count. So sometimes it says 0, but there is actually somebody there. Somebody might decide within the first 30 seconds to leave your stream again if you do not say anything. Where Twitch might not have updated this viewer count within the first 30 seconds that this person came in, meaning that you see the 0, but there's actually somebody there. That person decides to leave because you do not interact with them, and you've never noticed that they've been there. Meaning that if you focus on the fact that there's nobody there to deliver content, to deliver entertainment, to deliver value, then you're gonna miss out on people that are gonna click away the first 30 seconds that you're not delivering value. And the 0 is just very discouraging as well. It's the second thing. It's very discouraging, so seeing the 0 constantly is gonna mentally drain you. So having that view count be off is gonna be mentally a lot better for you. As you have only like 30 seconds to make that first impression on somebody, you don't want to be quiet for like 30 seconds. Yeah, you can have a pause. You can pause in between sentences. You can be quiet to listen to a cutscene. Sometimes there's something important going on in the game and you don't want to talk through it, right? Things like that happen. If there's something engaging going on in the stream, those are 30 seconds spent well. But if there's 30 seconds in the stream that nothing engaging is happening, there's nothing entertaining happening, nothing of value happening in the stream for 30 seconds, somebody might come in, see nothing engaging for 30 seconds, nothing entertaining for 30 seconds, they might leave because they think like, I don't like this stream. Because they haven't seen anything that caught their eye. People's time is valuable. People don't like wasting their time. If they do not know you, they do not owe you anything. Meaning that they're not going to give a lot of time to you if they do not know you. As soon as they know you, they're going to give you so many more chances. If they follow you already, if they're subscribed to you, yeah, they're going to wait out 10 minutes of nothingness. Because they're like, yeah, I know that they're going to be like good content in the end. But if they don't know you, they don't know who you are, they've never seen you before, they click on you, you don't deliver content immediately. Why would they not click on any of the other 10 million streamers? There's literally 10 million other streamers, by the way. And we all have bad days sometimes, right? And you can have a bad day. Everybody has a bad day. I'm very talkative one day, and sometimes I just like to be lying on the couch underneath a blanket. A lot of days I like to lie on the couch underneath a blanket, I'm not gonna lie. And on days like that, what you could do is you could write down things that you can talk about. Because if you've already have stories in your mind or written down, you can have a list next to yourself with some keywords that you can talk about. It's easier to come up with stories. Things that you can talk about, for example, what did you do today? What are the things you've been doing? So for example, today I went to the supermarket. Are there things that I've seen today in the supermarket? It can be super specific. It doesn't need to be anything. There was a girl who was asking for a discounted item, for example, she couldn't find. They already switched out the discounts for next week. So they had like these signs hanging. They just like did that already. And you can talk about that. And you can ask people like, hey, do that at your supermarket as well. Switch the discounts already and then just put a sign up like, hell, it's not actually discounted yet. It's just discounted tomorrow. Do that in your supermarket. And then you already have something to talk about with other people. It's like, hey, I did this today. I've noticed this. Do that in your area, or have you had this as well? I don't know, I went to the hairdresser. Have you recently gotten a haircut, or do you like my haircut, or something like that? I did not go to the hairdresser, but something like that. You did something when you were younger. I used to go to a theme park called the Efteling here in the neighborhood. You can talk about theme parks now. It's like, are there any theme parks in the neighborhood? Or maybe people have been to the Efteling as well, which is a pretty well-known theme park here in the Netherlands. And maybe people from outside of the Netherlands have come to the Efteling as well. And if they haven't, you can show pictures of the Efteling. And you can show like, hey, what is the Efteling? And you can explain what it is. There's plenty of things to talk about. That's what I'm trying to say. And you can always think about interesting stories to fall back on that you can talk about. And if you have bad days, it's good to have a list of things that you can talk about. If you're not yet trained on being able to come up with these stories on the spot, it's good to write them down as a backup. Book recommendation for this, by the way, is A Long Story Short. This is a book about telling stories. And, well, stories are great to tell on stream, because who doesn't like to hear a good story? I'll leave the link to that book underneath in the description, so if you want to get that book, well, there's the link. I don't know if they have a digital version or an audiobook, but I will link it underneath in the description, and I will figure it out for you guys. I do read my books on the hard copy usually. What you can also talk about the things in-game. So what do you see happening in-game? Oh, there's a funny character walking about. Oh, what a nice view. What is this story about? You can talk about like everything you see in game basically, but also game tactics. For example, multiplayer games, you can talk about Overwatch. I'm gonna go resurrect this person, or Genji is flanking, or I'm gonna go for a flank myself. Something like that. But also, if you're playing a management game, you can talk about the tactics you're gonna implement in there. Or you can say like, oh, this is the way I got to this point in the game by implementing this and this and this strategy. Game tactics and strategies to get to a certain point. And then you can do that by either games that you already know, and then people can learn from that. Or you can do that with games you do not know yet, and then people can help you optimize your strategy. So this way you can tell people like your thought patterns behind the choices you made. And then people can say like, oh, but that wasn't really optimal. The way you thought about it was great, but that was an optimal choice because this and this reason. And then you can basically discuss why things can go a certain way in the game or not. You can always decide for yourself if you want game spoilers or not. For management games, spoilers are not really a thing usually. But for story games, you can definitely say to people, oh, I don't want spoilers, but if I want help, I will tell you. But you can still talk about the game that has already occurred, right? So the past events in the game that have occurred, you can still talk about those in the chat. And then there might be things in games that remind you of a story. For example, you're in a game and you see a plane going over. You might think about the time that you were in a plane yourself. You're like, oh, hey, does it remind me of my holiday to Japan? This and this and this. Or you see a boat and you're like, oh, this reminds me of the time that my dad and I used to go fishing all the time. I did not do that, by the way. This is just creativity you're seeing right here. But you can connect things in-game with actual stories and combine these so you can actually talk about things while playing a game. And I always love asking chat for help in games. So if there's like mechanics or things that I think are difficult in games or some thought patterns that I don't understand, I always love if chat helps me with them, but only if I ask for them, right? So I'm like, hey chat, I don't understand this. Could you guys help me with this? Or I'm really stuck right now. Does anybody know how it goes? And I think this is one of the perks of being a streamer, is that you're not stuck anymore, because maybe somebody there that actually knows how to fix this problem or knows what the solution to this puzzle might be. Or just like, sometimes you're just so focused on one thing that you thought was the solution to something, where something else, which is super obvious, was the solution, and then somebody tells you that, and you're like, oh my god, yes, thank you. Then we have the discussion between multiplayer games and single player games. Single player games are easy to take the time to chat, but they're harder to come up with stories, because you need to keep the story going yourself. You have to do all the talking yourself. You have to keep everything going yourself. But you also have everything in control. This is something I like, having everything in control. Where with multiplayer games, it's easy to keep chatting, because you can just keep chatting with your friends on Discord. But it's easy to alienate viewers, because they might not understand the jokes you're making with your friends. It is also harder to find the time to, for example, thank chat for subscriptions or for follows, or to start a new conversation, because your friends are already in a conversation with you with something. And if a question comes from chat, it might be harder to intertwine that in the conversation you're already having with your friends, because you also want to answer that question from chat or interact with chat with it. I would say try out a single player game, try out a multiplayer game, and see what kind of streamer you are, because I feel like some people really like multiplayer games and some people really like single player games, and I feel like you need to find out what kind of streamer you are. Some people like both of them, but I feel like most people really prefer one of the two. It doesn't matter what kind of streamer you are, because we need both streamers. We need single player and multiplayer streamers. But the thing we do need is, please reply to chat messages. If you don't get many viewers and you are in your stream all alone for most of your stream, but you do get a chat message, you do need to reply to it. If you do not reply to it, people are gonna leave. Especially if they see that they're the only one there. You know why? Because they're like, I'm here the one for you. The one that you have been searching for, that one viewer that gives you attention, and you don't even care to react. You don't even give me the time of day. And it's probably because the last hour you haven't had any messages, so why check your chat every 30 seconds? Because there's probably nothing there right now. So what you do is you start checking your chat less often, and you will probably find that message 5, maybe 10 minutes after it's sent. And then that person is gone. Where that person expects to have a reaction within 30 seconds. So what you should be doing is glancing over to your chat every 30 seconds. Downside is, this is very, very, very mentally loaded, because every 30 seconds you see that there's nothing in the chat. The thing is, if there's something in the chat, this is the way to keep somebody in, because if you react immediately, they're gonna stay for the follow-up question. They're gonna stay for the follow-up message. Because now you're giving them attention, and that's what I came for. And the best thing to do right now is ask them open-ended questions, because that's gonna force them to react back. And then you're gonna ask more open-ended questions. And the best thing is, if you're gonna remember those answers, and if they come back next time, bring those answers back up. This is really, really, really hard though. I myself am really bad at remembering things, so if you come in my chat, I'm sorry. I try. But if you are able to do this, and you remember things from somebody and you bring it back up, you're gonna score a lot of points with this person. I know it feels weird to talk to somebody that isn't really there, to talk into a camera, but you know what? You aren't really here, and I'm making this video too. I mean, this feels weird too, you know? I'm just talking to a camera here, and you aren't here. But if you don't do it, but you just have to follow the meme. Just do it! Just do it! Another thing that's really important is that you have a decent microphone setup. You don't have to have a super expensive microphone. I'm not telling you to have the most expensive microphone. I'm currently using the Elgato Wave DX microphone. So if you're wondering what I'm using, that's what I'm using. But some people are sounding so bad that it's awful to listen to. Headset mics usually do not sound great. So if you do have a headset mic, please listen back to it and listen to it and think, should I listen to this for more than 5 minutes or would I click away? And the answer is probably I click away. There are a couple of headset mics that are good enough that I wouldn't click away for, but most of them I don't really like. And I'm sorry for everybody with a headset microphone, but usually they just sound awful. If you do not have a big budget, luckily Elgato came out with a pretty cheap microphone, which is the Elgato Wave Neo. I'll leave the link to the Elgato Wave DX and the Elgato Wave Neo underneath in the description. Now we know how to talk to yourself and come up with stories. I want you to come up with 10 story ideas. So write down 10 story ideas for your next stream. If you don't know any story ideas, go back to the video and think about the things I mentioned. What have you done today? Things like that. Write them down. See how many you can come up with. If it's more than 10, even better. And outside of talking to yourself when nobody's there, what is also important is looking confident while doing it. Looking confident on camera at least. It's alright if you're not that confident, but at least looking confident on camera will be good for your stream. So in the next video in this series on how to become a successful streamer, I'm going to teach you how to look confident on camera. I'll see you there.